Sideways Stories from Wayside School by Louis Sacker, published by Scholastic Incorporated. Reading level, DRA level 38, guided reading level P. Chapter 21. Ron. Ron had curly hair and little feet. "I want to play kickball," he said. "You can't play," said Terence. "Get out of here," said Dee Dee. "Scram," said Jason. "I want to play kickball." "Well, you're not playing," said Terence. "Beat it." Ron stomped across the playground to the hopscotch area. Jenny was playing hopscotch with Louis. Jenny was on 9. Louis was still on 4, but it was his turn. "I want to play kickball," Ron said. "So go play kickball," said Louis. "Terence won't let me play," said Ron. Louis walked with Ron to the kickball field. "Hey, what about our hopscotch game?" Jenny asked. "You won," said Louis. "I just beat Louis in hopscotch," Jenny announced. Leslie, Rondi, and Allison flocked around her. "Hey, Louis," Damien shouted, "do you want to play kickball?" "All right," said Louis. "Ron and I will both play." "No," said Terence. "Ron isn't playing." "Anybody who wants to play can play," said Louis. "No, he can't," said Terence. "It's my ball." "It isn't your ball," said Louis. "You gave it to me," said Terence. "I gave it to you to share," said Louis. "If you can't share it, you can't have it." "Oh, all right," said Terence, "but I get to pitch." "Ron and I will stand everybody," Louis announced. "All right," said Jason. "We'll kill him." "We'll murder him," said Dee Dee. "We'll smash him," said Myron. "We'll see," said Louis. Ron pitched and Louis played the other 8 positions. 20 minutes later, they finally got 3 outs. The score was 21-0. Ron was up first. "Infield in!" shouted Damien. Everybody stood within 10 feet of home plate. "All right, Ron," Louis shouted. "Kick it over their heads." Ron kicked the ball only 3.5 feet. Todd picked it up and threw him out. Louis was up. Everybody ran back to the edge of the outfield. Still, Louis kicked the ball over their heads for a home run. Everybody ran all the way back in again for Ron's up. He kicked the ball only 2 feet. Dee Dee tagged him out. Louis kicked another home run. Ron then kicked the ball a foot and tripped over it on his way to first base. 3 outs. Ron and Louis held the team to only 5 runs the next inning. That was because the bell rang. Lunch was finally over. Louis and Ron lost 26-2. Ron had had a wonderful time. The next day Ron said, "I want to play kickball." "You can't play," said Terence. "Get out of here," said Jason. "Scram," said Dee Dee. "I want to play kickball," Ron told Louis. Louis walked with him to the kickball field. "Ron and I will stand all of you." Everybody liked the teams. Ron pitched while Louis played the other 8 positions. They lost 57-2. After the game, Louis took Ron aside. "Listen, Ron," he said, "why do you always want to play kickball? You can't kick, you can't field, you can't even run to first base. You just get smashed every game." "Hey, now, wait a second," said Ron. "Don't go blaming it all on me. You're half the team, too, you know." And with that, he punched Louis in the stomach. And he punched a heck of a lot harder than he kicked. Chapter 22. The 3 Erics. In Mrs. Jewell's class, there were 3 children named Eric: Eric Fry, Eric Bacon, and Eric Ovens. They were known throughout the school for being fat. Eric Fry sat at this end of the room, Eric Bacon sat in the middle of the room, and Eric Ovens sat at that end of the room. There was a joke around Wayside School that if all 3 Erics were ever at the same end of the room at the same time, the whole school would tip over. Eric Bacon hated jokes like that. That's not surprising. After all, he wasn't even fat. In fact, he was the skinniest kid in Mrs. Jewell's class. But nobody seemed to notice. The other 2 Erics were fat, and so everybody just thought that all Erics were fat. "But I'm not fat," Eric Bacon insisted. "What's your name?" asked Jason. "Eric," said Eric Bacon. "Then you're fat," Jason concluded. And pretty soon, skinny little Eric Bacon, the skinniest kid in Mrs. Jewell's class, had the nickname Fatso. Eric Fry really was fat. He was also the best athlete in Mrs. Jewell's class. His body was solid muscle. However, nobody ever noticed. The other 2 Erics weren't very good at sports. Eric Ovens was clumsy. Eric Fatso Bacon was a good athlete for his size, but because he was so skinny, he didn't have much power. So naturally, everybody just assumed that Eric Fry was also clumsy and weak. After all, his name was Eric. Whenever the other kids chose up teams, Eric Fry was the last one picked. They never noticed his home runs or the fabulous catches he made. Like all great athletes, he made the impossible look easy. Of course, the other kids did notice the one time that he dropped the ball. Eric Fry was playing right field. Terrence belted a deep fly to the left. Eric Fry raced all the way across the field after the ball and at the last second dived at it. He caught it in midair on his fingertips, but as he hit the ground, the ball squirted loose. Well, what do you expect from Butterfingers? Said Stephen. And since that time, Eric Fry has had the name Butterfingers. Eric Ovens was the nicest person in Mrs. Jewell's class. He treated everyone equally and always had a kind word to say. But because his name was Eric, everyone thought he was mean. Fatso was mean because everyone called him Fatso. Butterfingers was mean because he always had to play right field. So naturally, everyone just assumed that Eric Ovens was also mean. They called him Crabapple. Good morning, Allison, said Eric Ovens. How are you? Lay off, Crabapple, will ya? Answered Allison. If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all. All three of the Erics had nicknames. It was better that way. Otherwise, when someone said, "Hey, Eric," no one knew to whom he was talking. One time all the Erics would answer, and the next time none of them would answer. But when someone called, "Hey, Crabapple," then Eric Ovens knew they were talking to him. And if someone said, "Hey, Butterfingers," Eric Fry knew they meant him. And when someone said, "Hey, Fatso," Eric Bacon knew that he was being called. Chapter 23, Allison. Allison had pretty blonde hair and always wore a sky blue windbreaker. Her windbreaker was the same color as her eyes. She was best friends with Rondi. Rondi had blonde hair too, but she was missing her 2 front teeth. Allison had all of her teeth. Allison used to say that she knocked Rondi's teeth out. Allison was very pretty, so all the boys in Mrs. Jewell's class teased her, especially Jason. But Allison said, "Leave me alone or I'll knock your teeth out, like I did Rondi's." The boys didn't bother her after that. One day Allison brought a tangerine for lunch. She took the peel off in one piece. Miss Munch, the lunch teacher, walked up to her. "Allison, may I have your tangerine?" she asked. Miss Mush always gave food to the children, so Allison was happy to give her tangerine to Miss Mush. Miss Mush shoved it in her mouth and swallowed it in less than 4 seconds. Allison left the lunchroom and walked down to the library. The lunchroom was on the 15th story. The library was on the 7th. Allison already had her book. She just went to the library because it was nice and quiet there. The librarian walked up to Allison. "What are you reading?" she asked. Allison told her the name of the book. "That sounds like a good book," said the librarian. "I never read that one. May I borrow it?" The librarian always lent books to the children. Allison was glad to be able to return the favor. She gave the librarian the book, then walked down the stairs outside to the playground. All of Allison's friends were playing freeze tag. Allison didn't feel like playing. She reached into the pocket of her sky blue windbreaker and took out a tennis ball. She bounced it a couple of times on the ground. Louis came up to her. "Hi, Allison," he said. "May I play with your tennis ball?" Louis always gave balls to the children. Allison happily gave her ball to Louis. Louis threw the ball all the way to the other side of the playground. Then he went chasing after it. Allison didn't feel like doing anything. Jason ran up and tagged her. "You're frozen," he said. "Get out of here before I knock your teeth out," said Allison. Jason shrugged his shoulders and left. Allison went back inside and up the 30 flights of stairs to Mrs. Jewell's room. The lunch period wasn't over yet, but Allison didn't feel like doing anything else. She had given her food to the lunch teacher, her book to the librarian, and her ball to the yard teacher. She went inside her classroom. Mrs. Jewells was there. "Oh, Allison, I'm glad you're here," said Mrs. Jewells. "I'm having trouble with an arithmetic problem. Maybe you can help." "Sure," said Allison. Mrs. Jewells always helped the children with their problems. Allison was happy to help. "How do you spell chair?" asked Mrs. Jewells. "Chair," said Allison. "Yes, that's right," said Mrs. Jewells. "I knew it wasn't Chare, but I couldn't remember what it was." "That's not an arithmetic problem," said Allison. "That's spelling." "Yes, you're right again," said Mrs. Jewells. "I always get the two mixed up." The bell rang. The lunch period was over. Allison could hear the other children running up the stairs. "Allison," said Mrs. Jewells, "you learned a very important secret today, and I don't want you to tell any of the other children, not even Rondi." "What was that?" asked Allison. She didn't even know she had learned a secret. She loved secrets. "You learned that children are really smarter than their teachers," said Mrs. Jewells. Oh, that's no secret, said Allison. Everybody knows that. Chapter 24. Damien. Damien had hazel eyes with a little black dot in the middle of each of them. The dots were called pupils. So was Damien. He was a pupil in Mrs. Jewls' class. Mrs. Jewls was about to show the class a movie. She turned out the lights. When it was dark, Damien's pupils got bigger. Damien, said Mrs. Jewls, run downstairs and ask Louis if he'd like to see the movie with us. Damien ran down the 30 flights of stairs to the playground. He stepped outside as Louis was hooking up a tetherball. Hey, Louis, Damien called. Do you want to see a movie in Mrs. Jewls' class? Louis rubbed his chin. What movie? He asked. Damien shrugged his shoulders. I don't know, he said. I'll be right back. Damien ran all the way back up to the stairs to the 30th story. Louis wants to know what movie, said Damien. Does he want to know the name of the movie or what the movie's about? Asked Mrs. Jewls. I don't know, said Damien. I'll ask him. Damien raced back down the stairs and out to the playground. Louis, do you want to know the name of the movie or what the movie's about? He asked. The name, said Louis. Okay, said Damien. Damien hurried back up the 30 flights of stairs. He took the steps 2 at a time. He wants to know the name, said Damien. Turtles, said Mrs. Jewls. Damien turned around, took a deep breath, then ran back down the stairs. Turtles, Damien told Louis. Hey, that might be good, said Louis. What's it about? I'm not sure, said Damien. I'll find out. Damien raced back up the stairs, but first he stopped to take a drink of water. What's it about, Mrs. Jewls? Asked Damien. Turtles, said Mrs. Jewls. Damien rushed back down the stairs to tell Louis. Turtles, said Damien. No, thanks, said Louis. I don't like turtles. They're too slow. Damien lowered his head and slowly walked up the 30 flights of stairs. His legs were sore, he could hardly breathe, and his side ached. By the time he got to Mrs. Jewls' class, the movie was over. All right, class, said Mrs. Jewls. I want everybody to take out a piece of paper and a pencil and write something about turtles. Damien had missed the movie, but he still could have written something about turtles. Turtles are too slow. But now he couldn't find his pencil. It just wasn't his day. What's the matter, Damien? Asked Mrs. Jewls. I can't find my pencil, said Damien. Class, Damien's pencil's missing, Mrs. Jewls announced. What did it look like, Damien? She asked. It was long and yellow, said Damien. It had a black point at one end and a red eraser at the other. I found it, said Todd, here by the blackboard. Yes, that's it, said Damien. No, there it is in the corner by the wastebasket, said Crabapple. Maybe that's it, said Damien. Here it is, said John. It's been on my desk the whole time. No, here it is in my hand, said Joe. I found it, said Rondi. Here it is, said Allison. I have it, laughed DJ. I found it, said Myron. Which one is yours, Damien? Asked Mrs. Jewls. Damien studied each pencil. They all look like mine, he said. Fortunately, at that moment, Louis walked into the classroom. He handed Damien a pencil. You dropped this when you were telling me about the movie, said Louis. Thanks, said Damien. Okay, class, said Mrs. Jewls, so that we have no more mix-ups, I want everybody to write his name on his pencil. Damien spent the rest of the day trying to write his name on his pencil. Damien's pencil couldn't write on itself. It was just like his beautiful hazel eyes with the black dots in the middle. They could see everything except themselves. Chapter 25. Jenny. Jenny came to school on the back of her father's motorcycle. She was late. Wayside school began at 9 o'clock. It was almost 9:30. She kissed her father goodbye and raced up the 30 flights of stairs to Mrs. Jewls' room. I'm sorry I'm late, Mrs. Jewls, but my father's motorcycle lost a... There was nobody there. The room was empty. Hello? Hello? She cried. Mrs. Jewls, Dana, Todd, anyone? There was no one in the room. Maybe I'm early, Jenny thought. She looked up at the clock. It was exactly 9:30. Ooh, I hope they didn't go on a field trip without me. She looked out the window. Nobody was there, not even Louis. Jenny didn't know what to do. She sat down at her desk. She watched the second hand go around on the clock. I might as well catch up on my spelling, she thought. She opened her desk and took out her speller. M-U-D spells mud. Where is everybody? B-L-O-O-D spells blood. I hope nothing happened to them. B-L-A-C-K spells black. Jenny heard footsteps coming down the hall. She began to work very fast. H-A-C-K spells hack. SMACK spells smack. Someone opened the door. Jenny turned around. Ack! She gasped. He was a man Jenny had never seen before. He had a black mustache and a matching attaché case. Jenny jumped out of her seat. Get back in your seat, the man said. Jenny slowly sat down. The man walked over and sat down in Dana's seat, facing Jenny. He opened his attaché case and removed some papers. What's your name? He asked her. Jenny, Jenny whispered. Jenny? The man repeated as if he didn't believe her. Well, it's actually Jennifer, Jenny for short, said Jenny. I see, said the man. He took the speller from Jenny's desk. Jenny's name was written across the top. He put the speller in his attaché case. What are you doing here, Jennifer? He asked. This is my classroom, said Jenny. Are you sure? The man asked. Yes, I think so. Where's the rest of your class? The man asked. I don't know, said Jenny. Maybe they went on a field trip. No, said the man. They didn't go on a field trip. Well, I don't know where they are, Jenny cried. I was half an hour late today, and when I got here, everybody was gone. Really, did something happen to them? The man didn't answer her. He wrote something on a piece of paper. Tell me something, Jennifer. When you came to school today and saw that nobody was here, weren't you somewhat puzzled? Yes, yes, said Jenny. What happened to them? If you were really so concerned and so puzzled, said the man, why did you work on spelling? I don't know, said Jenny. It would seem to me, the man said, that if a child came to school and nobody was there, she might play games or walk around or go home, but certainly not work on spelling. Jenny started to cry. I didn't know what to do. I was late and had to ride on a motorcycle and nobody was here, and now you're asking me all kinds of questions, and I'm afraid of what has happened to Dana and Mrs. Jules and Rodney and Allison. The man didn't understand a word she said. Jenny heard more footsteps. The man got up and opened the door. 2 more men came in. One had a black mustache like the first man. The other man was bald. Jenny was frightened by them. Does she know? Asked the newcomer with the mustache. She claims she knows nothing, the first man answered. She says she was late today, and when she got here, everybody was gone. Do you believe her? Asked the man with the bald head. I'm not sure. She was working on her speller when I walked in. He reached into his attaché case and took out Jenny's speller. He handed it to the man with the bald head. The bald man read Jenny's name across the top of it. Tell me, Jenny, he said, why are you the only one here? I don't know, said Jenny. Has this ever happened before? He asked. No, never, said Jenny. He gave Jenny her speller. Put this inside your desk. Jenny put it away. I'm satisfied, said the man with the bald head. Okay, Jennifer, said the first man. You may go now. Jenny got out of her seat. Jenny, the bald man called. Jenny turned slowly around. Yes, she whispered. Next time, don't come to school on a Saturday.